Episode 97, Marketing Presentation Mistakes That May Just Cost You Some Business. Today we explore real examples of marketing presentations that either landed perfectly or fell apart in the moment. Wow, wow, wow. Matt and I break down the factors that made each presentation work or fail, including clarity, pacing, confidence, preparation, and the ability to read the room. You will hear how a strong presentation can create instant buy-in, how a weak one can lose attention, credibility, and opportunity within minutes or even less. This episode gives small business owners a clear look at what separates a winning pitch from one that misses the mark. We discuss how presenters can connect with their audience, simplify the message, and guide decision makers toward action. We also highlight common breakdowns that local businesses rarely notice until it is too late. Strong presentations help you earn trust, shorten sales cycles, and stand out in a crowded market. I'm Jim Diedlow. He's Matt Hansen. Put your mic up a little.
Yesterday Jim and I had the ability. Jim came into one of my classes and heard marketing presentations. So that's why we're having a conversation today about this. And what really makes a good presentation? What makes a bad presentation? What are some of the things that you can work on? And having been in a million presentations over my time, lots of sales pitches, what it comes down to is just kind of understanding the room and understanding a bunch of things that you can control. So that's what I want to talk about today. And Jim saw a lot of this yesterday in the presentation. So what did you think?
There's two things out of it. I think I can tell when it was AI.
Okay.
All right. And so can you now, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, pull that mic up one more time. And I didn't realize this. Like, my wife's a judge, right? And we talk, not about specific cases or anything, but we talk about, like, stuff that comes to us, documents outside of our jobs. And it's getting pretty easy. Not easy. We're getting more familiar with AI-produced material. Mm-hmm. It's even formatted on a page in a certain way. And I noticed that a couple of times. I think this is AI'd out. And I think what it did is that it makes the presentations longer than they should be because it's very voluminous. And I think my wife's mentioned, the law community, and I've had other lawyers and judges in saying, the law community now has so much longer briefs and petitions because people are just letting the AI go on. Even when they create an AI email, I go in and cut it down. But there were a couple where I knew that was it, but they still knew the material. And the thing that got me is that they are very serious. I think, 25 or so in your class?
33, I think.
33. Yeah. And they all came through, and they were all dressed up, and they got that part of it. They got part of the what you need to do in a professional manner. I think they're all seniors in college, mm-hmm. marketing students. They're going to go out into the world. Some of them already have some jobs in marketing, you could tell. And I got that part of it. I was impressed with the ability to come in and go right into it. You've coached them how to dress, how to get into it, how to try to make eye contact. And I was completely impressed on the presentation and on the content. Outside of the minor, I guess a couple of minor criticisms would be reading it.
Yep.
Is not my favorite. Talk to us. I almost stopped a couple, but I know that's not part of their grade.
Yeah.
Reading, when it gets to that, don't do that. And when they say 15 minutes plus 5 minutes of questions, don't go to 19 minutes and then have no question and answer. The rules on Matt's grading system are we go to 15 or 12, and whatever's left we can do in a Q&A. And a couple of them that fell short of 15 minutes, I liked that.
Right.
Because it made it for concise, mm-hmm. boom, 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 and then they glossed over. And if I wanted to read into the proposal while I was going there, Explain what they had to do.
Yeah, so they had this is a media planning class that I have, and they have to give a presentation, put together a media plan for a client in a major city, and this time they had 350,000 fictitious dollars to spend, and I give them all of the different media vehicles that they can buy. So certain shows on TV and radio stations and billboards and digital, whether it's paid search or Meta or whatever it may be. And they have to put this plan together. And, from the presentation standpoint, I'm sitting there watching it yesterday. And the first things that I'm noticing are, you said it already, those that are already working in either the industry or have a job that does this, you can clearly see them versus those that aren't out there doing it right now. So there's clearly a difference just in that. And I'm not saying that each team had 5 or 6 individuals that were all doing that, but you could tell out of the 5 people that were giving a presentation, these 2 are already out there doing presentations and things like that. You mentioned reading off of a piece of paper, off of a slide or anything like that. I mean, I think from a time perspective, I gave them 15 minutes and then we had 5 minutes Q&A. I was hoping they would read into it that let's make it a 10-minute presentation and let's work on 10 minutes of Q&A to solidify why we are the best. And I think that's a real interesting way to look at things. So if you have a half-hour meeting with somebody, don't spend the entire 30 minutes talking to them about what you're going to do for them. I think it's more important to present high level, get those questions to come in, and then you can clarify why you are the best. I know I asked a couple of them, why you? Why should we go with you versus somebody else? And those are questions, those are intake questions that they should have listened to and said, all right, they're asking us for our pitch. Like, what is our elevator pitch as to why they should go with us versus the other 3 that we competed against or so forth?
So just to put this in context, I mean, we're talking about 33 of the best marketing students that are going to try to graduate with an undergraduate degree at Purdue here. And Matt has tutored many of them that have gone on to massive jobs in marketing. I mean, certainly the number 2 person over here at Albanese. The woman here worked here. I forget her name. The woman from Belarus. From Russia.
Daria. Yeah,
Daria was, when she worked here, she walked in and she's like, Jed, we got to do X and Y and Z. And she had started on it. And then she got hired by some, I don't know what company, big company.
She went to Starcom and now she's at Walmart Connect.
Yeah, when you get that email from Walmart Connect, she's got her hands probably 3 people lower than her sent it out. But, I mean, these are people that learn marketing from Matt. So they have to come in and then, quite frankly, he has to bring in people in the industry to help look at the pitches, like me, and Narissa is also a P&W communications person. So it was not that easy for these people. No. Now, I think you were like, man, you were a little bit short with a couple of them, but I knew what I was looking for.
I love that.
So I'll give you an example. It was the Museum of Science and Industry. The first 2 came in, and they had to choose between going just at women or going at men and women. Nobody just went at men, right? 25 to 49. First 2 come in at women, and I'm like, that's good. They normally make the decisions in 2-person households. And then the next one came in, and they said, well, we're gonna mix this up. We're gonna go men and women. And I'm like, all right. At the first question, why do you, why do you go men and women? And we all know that women make the decision, blah blah blah. And the guy was hemming and hawing, and then finally he goes, well. So the research showed us that there's a lot of single dads looking for a place to take their kids. And I go, that's it. We're done. Yeah. That's all. I needed that word. I knew that. Now I know you did the research. You did your homework because you said that, single dads. I thought that was a little bit left out by some of the ones that just went at women. I'm like, all right, think it through. Who needs to take their kids for 4 hours, 6 hours, right? It's some dad who's on. My wife's a divorce judge, man. All these guys all these guys have nowhere to go, and they don't want to take them back to their apartment because they're out of their house. They take them to museums. They take them to malls. They take them to Target. I could tell in Target. I'm like, yeah, it's just a single dad. He's got his kid for the night. Doesn't want to drive all the way back to Chicago or whatever. So he's got to take his kid somewhere. Library. I go to the library a lot with mine, and I got some dude sitting there. Hey, what's up? Yeah, visitation ends at 7:30, right?
Yeah.
So they got that part of it, and I think I elevated them because of that.
Well, it goes back to the timing, right? So you have 15 minutes to give a pitch, and then you had 5 minutes for Q&A. If we would have never gotten to Q&A, you would have never had that conversation.
Exactly. And so I think that's the message to you folks. Matt has coached me, and we'll get to a couple other things. And you know what? Basically, I'm like, oh, man, I need all this. I need all this material to hand out to 4 people in a marketing meeting, and he's just go in and talk to him, will you? Quit being such a baby. And I'm like, it's kind of weird, but almost like the less I hand out, and I think it still helps to have practiced it because you could tell if you're making it up as you go along, or man, I should have left that part out. You learn that part in the shower, or you learn that part in having your spouse or something listen to a, and that's not that's nothing. That's not a knock on your abilities, but if you've done it once, you say things and you're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Let's throw that out. Then you can shorten it and get to like 2. I always go with 1 or 3 points, never 2. 1 or 3 points, and that's all you're going to do. Those are your strongest ones. Boom. Let the other stuff come out in a Q&A.
Yeah. You know what was funny yesterday is, we're asking him all these questions and in the Q&A part of it, but I asked a couple teams, why you? Or, Q&A, we ask a few questions. It's Q&A, right? From a student's perspective, they have not realized that Q&A is a two-way street. Why didn't they ask you or me or Narissa, what is it that you want out of this campaign? What is it that you take preference over? Are you a TV person? Are you a magazine person? Do you feel that generating awareness is more important than generating conversion right now? Or is it vice versa? Like, none of them asked us a question. And that's interesting to me because in the real world, right, so as a small business owner, you're always asking questions to your customers. You're always learning from them. So that was a learning moment that they didn't take advantage of. And I know a few of them listen to the podcast. Hopefully they're hearing this and realizing, oh, man, we missed an opportunity to ask questions to them. Because what happens is when you go into a presentation, you have kind of a way that you're going. And at some point in that presentation, you are going to go a different way. It never goes straight down the path. And if it does, you've missed the presentation already, right? So you've given a 15-minute presentation on this is what we're doing, but you never asked a question. You never listened to the person on the other side, the potential customer on the other side. So you don't know anything about them, right? And we always say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. It should be, you should listen more than you should talk. And it's interesting because I'll go back to class next week and I'll have a conversation with them and I'll say, all right, here's the thing. You had 15 minutes to give a presentation, 5 minutes for Q&A. Why didn't you give a 10-minute presentation, take 5 minutes of that time to then ask us questions for clarification and then readjust your plan?
I don't know if that's so fair. It sounds like you gave them a 15-minute thing and 5 minutes of, I think just one fell short of 15 minutes, maybe 2. And so you're basically saying, I wanted them to figure out that it should be shorter, but you've never given them that hint other than here on this. If the next class will listen to this podcast and you'll get, oh, Jim, come on over. Let's go do this again. Buy me lunch on time next time.
Don't blame me for the lunch on time. It was there.
How do you order lunch at noon and we're eating at 1:40?
I think it was 2:00.
Yeah. But anyways, it's not fair to them because you never hinted that.
Sure.
You're just like, oh, they got to figure that out.
But that's a lot of teaching, right? So again, I'm going back to them next week. Their final project is done. Everything that's for points has been turned in. So we'll go back next week and we'll tell who did the best job and we'll give them teaching moments. Okay, we'll talk about this. You had 15 minutes. Why not take 10 minutes? Why not take 5 minutes to ask us questions and then readjust your pitch, your offer? That is a teachable moment. So from a small business perspective, do you ever go out there and give a presentation and then come back and actually talk about it with your team? What worked? What didn't? Right? Or do you go in to a presentation and have roles? So we pitched a credit union years ago, and one of the things that we did is there were 3 of us going into the presentation, and everybody was asking, all right, who wants to give the presentation? And I said, I don't want to give it. I want to sit at the back of the room and watch. And they said, okay, that's fine. You do you. We'll give the presentation. And there were 12 people in the room, and there was one random person that was in that room. And I remember sitting there, and I'm going, all right, who is this? Didn't introduce themselves. But as we were going, they started to ask more and more questions. And you could tell they weren't necessarily pleased with us being there. And I thought, okay, that's the decision maker. That's the person they brought in to kind of clarify whether or not we go to work with these individuals. So it was funny. I started asking the questions to this person. I go, well, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're hearing today that is not resonating? What is it that you think we need to present and come back to you within the next week? And I got all of this information out of this individual. And it was funny because about 3 months later, we stayed on. We ended up working with a client for a while. But about 3 months later, I walked into a Memorial Day picnic, and there he was. And I went, I know you. And he goes, I know you. What are you doing here? I said, oh, we're good friends with, the host and everything. And he goes, I go, can I sit down? He's like, yeah, have a seat. So we sat down and we were talking about it. He goes, I was there to get rid of you guys that day. And I go, I could tell. I said, my whole job that whole day was literally to identify what your needs were and to figure out how we can please you because I knew you were making the decisions. He goes, man, I wanted to get rid of you guys. He goes, your questions, your ability to feel out exactly what I wanted to hear is why we kept you on. He goes, if you didn't do that, you just came in and gave a presentation, you would have never heard from us again.
What's the lesson there? And I'm learning it now at, this advanced part of my experience in business. And a very similar thing was Matt's like, all right, CC me on this email you're sending to perhaps one of the largest companies in Indiana. And I had already talked to him. And then we made a bunch of changes. So I sent him the email to tell them, oh, this is what we did. And then he calls me for a lunch, and we go to the lunch. And very politely, he's like, yeah, that was really bad. And I'm like, well, God, I thought I spent a lot of time with it. And I wrote exactly what changes we had made that would fit their story. He goes, well, where's that part that fits their needs? And a light bulb has gone off of recent that when I go into things, I need to get information because I'm not going to probably make the sale that day. I'm going to be like, I need to take it back and rework it, or at least make an understanding that I'm trying to understand their needs. Especially when you're a small to medium-sized business, you have the ability to cut deals, to curtail the deal to the customer's needs, and you have the time, hopefully, to actually listen to their needs. Now, that's something that I have not been doing. The email he's sending out today, It's a little bit too much, this is how great we are.
Okay.
All right? You might want to look at it.
I'm going to go tackle him.
Yeah, tackle it around and say, all right, do you have the need, that one is, whatever, selling Purdue and IU basketball. Do you have the need to attach in a positive manner? And, do you like Purdue sports? They're number one in the country. We can do this right now. And put yourself in that small to medium-sized business owner's seat. And it's kind of been a light bulb. When you told me that you didn't like that email, and I'm like, I went back and looked at it. I go, man, you're right. Where does it say what is their needs? Yeah. Doesn't it all? And people forget that. And none of those people in those 8 presentations ever asked us what we thought.
Yeah.
Once they addressed us as, well, I'm guessing this is what you need as a client, to even recognize that we were in the room.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing to get out of this is in a presentation, you have to figure out what, and it's not patronizing. It's not like, hey, I got to, I want to make, one of the things came in and they tried to be a little patronizing to us. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. Nope. I just like, all right, here's what we have. And we just need to know what we would do to help you. And people don't do that. It just isn't part of the DNA. You're a small to medium-sized business owner. You're really proud of what you're doing, and you want to tell your story. But your story doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you talk about the email going out with everything. And I sent a couple emails out this week in the same sense. And it was more or less like, I understand what you're going through right now. I know that you've got this change happening, which means you don't need any more friction to your business. However, here's an opportunity to take what you're already doing and build upon it. And it's not going to add any more time or effort to what you're doing here. Happy to have a phone call with you about it. And by the way, if you do this, I'm going to throw something in additional just to give me this call, right? And it's funny, they're not going to come back with that, but I'm going to go back in another couple days and I'm going to send another email. I'm going to say, hey, by the way, those numbers that I threw at you a couple days ago, I was wrong. They're actually higher, right? I'm going to share with you all of this information. When you're ready, we're here. This is what's happening. And again, we had these presentations, and there were a lot of sales students, students that are minoring in sales and that. And again, they're giving a pitch. Not a single one of them said, are you ready to sign? Or, what can we get you to do to sign today? From 1 to 10, how interested are you in moving forward with this today? Like something along those lines.
No CTA.
No
call to action. And you don't want to get too strong in like an initial pitch. But that question, what could we do to understand your business better? And what could we do to use our services to make that business even better? And question was not asked.
Right.
So your next year or next semester is going to listen to this podcast and they're going to know what I was critical of and what you were looking for in the grade, and they're going to be totally different.
But that's good. I mean, hopefully they listen and then, they can fix those types of things.
All right, let's just take one real quick.
Sure.
All right. All sorts of businesses listen to us, so let's just pick one. Life insurance. What do you say to life insurance presentations?
So I've been pitched for life insurance in the past, and I was open to listening, right? Like, tell me all about it. Tell me all the wonderful things that you're going to do. And unfortunately, the problem that I see, and I pick everything apart just because I want to understand where they're coming from and all of that, is many of the things that they kept throwing, it was just document after document after document. Here's 45 documents to look at that explain what this insurance is. And I kept saying, can you just explain it to me like I'm a third grader? Well, and they were using big jargon words and all of these other things. And I said, again, can you explain it to me like I'm a third grader? It was so bad that I actually had to go online and spend about an hour researching all of the stuff that they would put into this thing to fully understand it. And once I understood it, I went, no, I'm not doing that. And there was never an understanding as to why I went that direction. They kept trying to have a phone call and all of that. And I said, you've missed the mark, right? Like I've asked you multiple times to explain it to me like a third grader because that's what you need to do. Like it needs to be so simple that I understand it. And, I just remember multiple terms. I'm like, I've never heard that term before. Let me go and research it. And they were talking about, we'll put this money in an investment account and it will draw. And I'm like, yeah, I can do the same thing. And I'm probably going to outperform you. And like, you have not shown me anything yet that makes me go, oh, all right. So you're a much better fit than if I were to do this. So it's funny to me because people get so caught up in trying to put something out in front of somebody and trying to get somebody to sign on the dotted line that they don't ever ask the question, like, do you understand what I'm talking about here? And if you don't, like, I'm here to explain it. Again, I talk with my clients all the time, and before I sign on a client, I literally will have conversations with them almost exhausting conversations with them to understand their business, to see if it's a fit. And we talk and we talk and we talk. And I want to understand the pain points of somebody that I'm going to work with, a customer that's out there, right? So, whether it's life insurance, I mentioned the credit union, if it's a local retailer, if you're a small business and, somebody's trying to sell you on something, odds are you have certain pain points that you're trying to solve. And good marketing presentations will try to learn those pain points up front and address them. But somewhere in that presentation, you need to stop and go, have I answered all of the problems that you're dealing with? Or is there something else that we need to focus on? That was the question that I'm always looking to hear from my students, because those are the ones that are going to be ridiculously successful in the future, because they're stopping what they're saying and they're listening, or they're asking questions. And I've spent, you mentioned Daria. I've spent countless hours with Daria when she was a student, and kind of looking at that and going, all right, what are the questions they're going to ask? Let's pick apart your presentation. Let's pick apart the client. Let's understand it from their point of view. Is what you're proposing too much work? Is it something that's going to cause another pain point to them? Or is it going to solve something? Is it going to literally take something off the shelf that they've been struggling with, and now it's our problem, not their problem? And, too often people don't ask the questions on the other side to get a yes. If you answer a pain point, if you solve pain points, people will say yes every single day of the month, right? If I'm pulling a pain point and I can afford to pay you to take that pain point away, I'll do it. A lot of people always say, oh, it's money, it's money, it's money. It's not money. If I can solve things and I can move you faster and you can make more money by taking this pain point away and you're paying me, it's a much better way of doing business.
He's Matt Hansen. Let's end it on that. We listened to many presentations yesterday, and the takeaway for this is me kind of learning it. And I'm just telling you, you kind of almost have to think in terms of that business owner or that person you're trying to sell to on the other side. What can I get? What information do I need out of them so I can solve their problem? Any other takeaway you want to tell them?
No, just if you're giving a presentation, don't go the full time. Ask questions. Let them ask them, what are your top 3 questions that you still have? You'll learn so much.
Episode 97 is now done. Until next time, see you later.